a business, maybe you want to find funding, whatever your sort of end goal is, you can implement these strategies to help. The one thing I ask of you is to keep an open mind while you're listening to this presentation and learning about marketing. Try on a different hat. A lot of you have the science expertise and you're really focused on research, translation, and product development, but marketing looks at what you can bring to the table for potential stakeholders. And those stakeholders can be a lot of different people. They could be investors, partners, new team members or colleagues that you might be searching for, patients even, and what have you. So just keep an open mind, and I hope you enjoy the presentation. There we go. Just to run through what we're going to be talking about today, quick intro. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and the MSIP marketing and outreach team, which you're probably already familiar with. We're going to dive into a few different types of marketing, and you'll see the way that they're sort of set up in a process. So you could build your foundation and then again sort of advance and become more strategic as you go down in your efforts. I'll offer some examples of each type of marketing, and then we'll touch upon some free resources that you can utilize right now to get going on your marketing efforts. So just to tell you a bit about me, my name is Tracy Diamond. I started my career at HarperCollins Publishers as a marketing assistant, worked with a lot of different types of books. You name it, I probably worked on it, fiction, nonfiction, romance, all that stuff. So I learned a lot about reaching customers and how to hone in marketing strategies based on what people are looking for. After that, I transitioned to a nonprofit organization called the Institute of International Education, which administered scholarships and study abroad programs internationally. Through that, working with a lot of STEM scholars, that was when I realized I really wanted to work in the healthcare industry. And eventually, those efforts brought me to Mount Sinai Innovation Partners. I've been here since May 2017, and it's been a great learning experience. You're probably familiar with our marketing and outreach team, our fearless leader, Cynthia Cleto, myself, and of course, Dove, who leads our education and entrepreneurship efforts. Some of the areas that we focus on as the marketing and outreach team, we manage all communication across the health system and externally as well. Press releases, materials, you name it, we work on it. We lead digital efforts and campaigns about MSIP, raising awareness, getting people to start conversations with us. We help discover new partnerships, whether that's through co-sponsoring an event or initiative, or even potential licensees. We spearhead educational opportunities, coach, mentor, submit funding grants, and plenty more. No day is ever the same when it comes to marketing, and that's one of the things that I really like about it. So diving right into our types of marketing. So as you could see here, the sort of stage approach, we're going to learn how we can sort of utilize each of these types to optimize your success in what you're quote unquote selling or what you're working on. We're going to really hone in on the first two, brand marketing and digital and content marketing, because again, that's what you can kind of get started on right now. And then we're going to touch upon inbound marketing and customer marketing. Now, one important thing to remember, when it comes to customers, you might hear me use the word customer quite a bit during this presentation. Remember that customer can mean audience. Again, it can mean any of those stakeholders that I mentioned earlier. When it comes to MSIP marketing, our idea of customer certainly doesn't meet the traditional sense of the word like a lot of other companies might use. You know, their customer is somebody that buys their product and that's it. So remember that that's your audience that you're trying to reach. So let's take a look at brand marketing. Who are you and what are you trying to do here? What are you trying to tell people about who you are? Establishing your brand is key in the beginning of creating your business or your product or even yourself. Branding yourself is super important. Establishing a mission and vision is a great first step in these efforts. Now, a lot of people tend to use mission and vision sort of interchangeably, but they are two very different things. The most important thing to remember is to keep them broad. Your mission is what you or your organization is doing. The vision is the end result. The vision is the goal that you're trying to accomplish. You can remember that by imagining vision. What are you trying to envision? The way that they work together is that you perform the mission in order to accomplish the vision. A few tips or pieces of advice when establishing a mission and a vision is to keep it simple and clear and short. If you take a look at Starbucks' mission, to inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, and one neighborhood at a time. Short, kind of nice, comforting, memorable. TED, spread ideas, even shorter. TED covers so many different areas and initiatives. By saying spread ideas, it covers all of them. Another important component to establishing a mission and vision is to keep it concise and understandable. Can your grandmother understand what you're trying to accomplish? Always try to remember that in your efforts. We got a little grandma there who's looking out for us. So keeping those two broad, and then if you want to talk about your history or your personal story, what inspired you to develop this idea, you can always dive into that story and utilize it as content later on. So we're going to get into that on the next slide. The next step after you have your mission and vision is to identify your audience. Now, this is where you want to get specific. Who needs your product and why do they need it? The more you hone in on who your audience is, the more specific you are, the better you will be able to provide interesting and attractive content to draw them in as your quote unquote customer. So really identifying who that is crucial. One tactic when it comes to identifying the audience is to create customer personas. Now, customer personas, this might be something that you are familiar with already, but essentially it's about creating different stories of who your ideal customers might be. You can create a bunch of different ones. It might seem...
Anyone on the line, if you can please mute your mic.
Thanks, guys. So customer personas, it might seem a little funny to do this, but it's really helpful. Give your customer a name, a job, a salary, a gender, socioeconomic status. What is it about them? Do they have a family? What are their challenges? What will your product provide as a solution to them? The more you create these customer personas and dive into them and add details, the better you can sort of understand the way your product is interpreted through different perspectives. So that's an important step that I encourage you to get creative on. And another thing to think about in terms of your brand is the work culture. You might want to start a business or a new organization. What kind of environment are you trying to create? And why would people want to come and work with you or for you? I personally think when it comes to establishing a work culture, you might want to think of some keywords or buzzwords, sort of keeping that broad, like open-mindedness and inclusivity, so people understand what you're going for. But when it comes to the values and the benefits that you might actually implement, that's where you want to get specific. So what will you actually tangibly offer to employees? A lot of companies offer things like yoga during lunchtime or bring your pet to the office, things like that. They might, they seem a little funny, but it helps with the work-life balance, and it's important to a lot of employees. Okay, diving into digital and content marketing. So digital marketing and content marketing are two different things, but they go hand in hand very much, so we could talk about them together. As you're probably aware, the past decade or even 2 decades, digital marketing has completely revolutionized the marketing world. It is a cost-effective and impactful way to reach your audience. You can do a lot with a little bit of budget when it comes to digital marketing. And content marketing has to do with what stuff do you want to tell your customers? What do you have to share to interest and attract them to your product or your service? Some examples of marketing that will get your audience talking: multimedia, share videos and photos, blog posts, written articles. Again, tying back to that sort of idea, the idea inspiration, the history, personal story that ties back to your brand. That's a great piece of content too. Having a social media presence is always really beneficial. People will get to kind of know your tone and personality, Q&As, live interviews. These are all things that MSIP marketing has worked on over the years. Some specific examples that you can maybe even get started on right now is creating a promotional video of how your product works. That's always a great idea. We're working with a Mount Sinai startup called Monogram Orthopedics, which is developing customized joint replacements via 3D printing, and they have a great promotional video on their Seed Invest profile if you ever want to check that out. You can also offer behind-the-scenes interviews with researchers or clinical experts, getting to know, the faces and the names sort of thing. And again, the blog posts or written articles are always a great way to go as well. The 4 key steps you want to remember for content are make sure it's shareable. And that's why digital marketing comes in handy, because you could easily share a link. Relevant content, easily accessible, make sure it lives on your website or a certain platform, and interesting, of course. Now, how do you share the content? Email marketing, that's a great way to go. MSIP, as you probably know, we do a ton of email marketing, lots of email blasts to get event registrants and what have you. Cross-promotion via social media channels, getting people to share or retweet your posts. Word of mouth is always impactful. And events, if you're interested in hosting events. I've come to find that a lot of that word of mouth aspect happens at the events that MSIP hosts. Sometimes we ask questions like, hey, how'd you hear about this event? Then you can learn what's working and what might not be working so well. How do you measure success? Well, analytics, of course. You can take a look at the metrics and the stats behind your campaigns. I actually run monthly analytics reports for all of our marketing campaigns, the website and social media presence. So again, I can see what's working and I can see what might not be working so well. I just want to show you this quick example of something that was really successful in terms of marketing for MSIP. This happened in October of 2019. So a little case study example. October 2019 was one of the most successful months that I've seen in terms of our digital marketing and the numbers that we were hitting. They were the highest I've ever seen them. So I had to spend some time and think about what happened in October that made it so successful. Well, we sent out our quarterly newsletter. We sent out the Q3 issue that month. We hosted a series of events. We had a presence at Sinai Innovations where we awarded Inventor of the Year and Deal of the Year. And during that awards ceremony, we live posted on our social media channels. So we were having quick paraphrased quotes from the acceptance speeches on our Twitter account. People were engaging with that. We were promoting MSIP job openings. We were sharing videos from these events and plenty more. Because of those efforts, we saw a 92% increase in newsletter opens and an 83% increase in clicks. So having those hyperlinks included in your content is also key. A 30% increase in website visits, 75 new LinkedIn followers, and about a 30% average increase in our social media engagement. This was huge, and I was really happy to see it. And it all just goes to show you that having that personalized content and creating conversation and also listening to the conversation among your audience and potential customers is the most important step. I want to touch upon inbound marketing a little bit. Inbound marketing has to do with digital and content, but it is a bit more strategic. Inbound marketing is about drawing in new and potential customers by getting to know them a little bit. It's almost like bringing them through a process so you can learn more about what they're interested in order to get them to work with you in some capacity. One way to do this is through utilizing calls to action, or CTAs as we call it. CTAs are essentially links in your digital marketing campaign. You could see the example here is from one of our email blasts that we recently sent out about the poster presentation next week, which I'm sure most of you will be attending. The CTA here is register. Register for the event. Fill out the form in the email, your name, whatever it is, and we'll get to know you a little bit better. Inbound marketing is a great way to learn about your potential customers so you can target them better and see what they're interested in. And that's how you can sort of aid or increase the chance of getting results. And those results are called conversions, getting the customer to convert. So again, a lot of these sort of traditional business to consumer companies measure conversions in you bought our product, check. At MSIP, we measure conversions in a plethora of ways. You attended the event. You disclosed the technology to our business development team. You licensed your technology. You signed up for our newsletter. Whatever that end result is, that's your conversion. So again, it's kind of like a process of events. It can kind of go as long as you think is necessary, or stop after 1 or 2 sort of engagement sessions here. You have a great piece of content with a CTA. You engage them for more information. Maybe it's getting their email address. Maybe it's their location because you're trying to gather geographical data. Then you can send them more great information based on what you already had. Then you can prompt them for even more about who they are and collect all that information, and hopefully it turns into a successful conversion. Something that I kind of thought was a little funny, this example here, when I was preparing for this presentation, I Googled best inbound marketing examples. And this marketing service called HubSpot came up. They offer tons of blog posts and content. And it had a list. It said, HubSpot Lookbook, top 30 inbound marketing examples. So I clicked it, and sure enough, this pop-up came up, and it prompted me for my first name, last name, and email. That right there is inbound marketing. So now they know who I am and what I'm interested in. So then they can email me and send me more content that interests me. I already signed up for their stuff, so they already know who I am. So we talked about inbound marketing. We talked about bringing in those new and potential customers. Now we talk about customer marketing. How do you retain the customers that are existing? How do you keep them happy with your great product or service? You have to ensure that the experience stays positive for them. Did your product solve a problem for them? Did you live up to those brand expectations that you established early on? You want to make sure that you're keeping your existing customers happy, and that's making sure that your marketing team and maybe a customer support team or whoever is handling the sort of kinks and the bugs in the product are working together. If you can keep your customers happy, you are establishing trust, or you are reestablishing trust that you created in the very beginning. The other benefit to this is that your customers can turn into these sort of unofficial brand advocates that can spread the word. They can write great reviews, they can recommend your product to a friend, and what have you. So customer marketing is also really important. And the other important side to that is to make sure that if there are any issues, if there are any negative complaints or anything like that, you are rectifying the mistakes and engaging with that customer to ensure that they are later satisfied. So here we have some helpful resources. We're happy to send you these slides so you can remember what they are. Medium is a blogging website. You can create a profile and write about whatever you want and share it with different audiences and communities. So that's great if you want to start writing. Hootsuite, that's a social media management platform. I use it all the time. You can share up to, I believe, 3 social media handles on Hootsuite, and you can schedule them out. You can look at analytics. It's a super helpful dashboard. The Google Suite, of course, as everybody knows, Google is super helpful. Google Trends, this is something that a lot of companies use. Type in a keyword and see what the conversation is about that particular topic, so you can see what people are talking about when it comes to your product and kind of strategize your way based on what you find. Google Scholar, I recently came across this one. It's a search engine that you can use to find scholarly articles and publications. Again, might be helpful for the sort of science and research aspect. Google Analytics, take a look at the amount of website traffic that you might be getting. WordPress, this is something that you can use if you want to build a landing page or a website. They have a free service, and then you can also pay for the sort of intricacies behind WordPress. The MSIP website actually is hosted by WordPress. And Canva. Canva is a design tool that's free to use. It's like Photoshop, only the user experience is way more friendly than Photoshop is. They have some great designs, and tons of companies use Canva. And with that, thank you all so much for tuning in. I'm looking forward to learning more about your ideas and seeing you at the Pitch Challenge.